are, chaps. We've got our top wings completed now, and we need to obviously mount these onto the aircraft, and then we have a few other bits and pieces, but we're fairly close to completing this kit. The wings themselves, we've got our little ply parts here and our carbon fibre peg that locates into the side of the aircraft there. So the peg goes into this hole here, and the brace, the plywood brace, goes into this hole. What I'm also going to do, just to make sure that they fit nicely, is I'm going to just slightly sand down the brace itself, just to make sure. And I've created a little bit of a sharpened point to the peg as well, just so that it'll insert into that hole. Okay. And what I can do before I actually pop those in, and you can do the same if you've got a bit of carbon fibre, you can actually check whether the peg's going to go into the hole, and you want it relatively stiff. You don't want it loose, but just check, and if it doesn't, or it starts pushing the side of the aircraft in, either put in a little round file to file down the hole, or obviously you can sand down the peg itself, just so that you get a good fit. The other thing that we need to do as well, let's just take the top off here. We haven't got any electronics in here at the moment, apart from the wiring that we've got for the LEDs and the motors and the Y cable for the servos. And obviously on these wings we've got LEDs and we've got wire. Now there is a bit of an idiosyncrasy to the lights themselves. We're going to put Y cable onto. If I can find where they've gone. Aha! I'll put them back in the bag. So let's just grab the Y cable. So we've got a Y cable here. Now, the intelligent thing to do would be to put both of these onto the Y cable and pop that into the LED controller. But unfortunately, the red and green don't work particularly well. I think one's dimmer than the other on the Y cable, which is a bit weird. But so what we're going to do is we're going to put the green onto the Y cable, and we're going to put the red onto an extension cable. The other end of the Y, we're actually going to, or the other arm of the Y, we're actually going to attach the tail light to, and obviously the nose light we're actually going to attach to a separate port on the LED controller that allows us to switch the landing light on and off, independent of the nav light and the anti-collision light. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to plug that in now, and then we'll thread everything through when we come to install the wing. So let's mount the starboard wing to start off with. And we'll just put the port wing to one side for now. Obviously there aren't any, there's no servos in this, so we don't need anything else but that. And we're just going to pop the rest of the cable through the hole provided in the fuselage. Like so. Little bit of a fiddle. We'll get it through. into the interior, and then we'll connect what we need to connect in the cabin space. So that's all hooked up there. We can just put the cable through. Should all fit like so, and then we are free to start the process of bringing the whole thing together. So you don't want to pinch the cable. So there we have our top wing almost mounted. Let me bring this more centrally so I can get a good look. Now with the wings themselves, of course, the actual rib, the first rib there, the doubler, is slightly recessed into the wing itself, and that allows the wing to then go over, or should go over the ply here. And it's just needs a little encouragement. There we go. And the other thing we need to check is obviously whether the wing is running parallel with the one below, which it is. So it's sitting nicely there. And then if we flip the aircraft over, bring my dirty coffee mug into play here, and then we can slide the strut into place. Now you probably can't see this, but you'll certainly, if you're building the aircraft, you'll be able to make it out. Let's see if I can angle this so I can show you. So you can see there's a slot in the wing, and the strut itself should take residence, get residence in that slot. Once again, may need a little bit of encouragement. So I'm finding that my slot is a little lacking at the back, so I'm just going to take my knife and just use the back of the knife just to open that slot up a bit to allow the strut to sit in there properly. There we go. So I know that pops in now. That's not a problem. Now it's probably going to pop it in and out while we fiddle around with the attachment of the wing itself. But I know that now that's all fitted correctly and all in the right place. So I'm quite happy with that. And this edge here is actually going to be covered up with a piece of Tyvek. Anywho, so anything poking out there or not fully covered up will be covered up eventually by the Tyvek itself. Right, so we've got the wing on. It's just a dry fit at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is just pop everything out. Not all the way, of course. It's dragging the ply off. But, so I'm just going to take it to the point where I can get my glue nozzle into the gap. Then, once my nozzle is cleared, I can add a little glue into the equation. Also adding glue onto the inside of the wing. Just overspilled there slightly. Just remove that while it's wet. And also just add a little on the ply. There we go. Okay, so while the glue's wet, I'm just going to push that home where we had it before. So broken a little bit there. Yeah, I don't think it's well. Let's put a little bit of glue on that so it's at least it's structurally sound. So, doing an operation. Go. So the other thing, of course, we've got to do with this wing on is finalise the rigging itself. Almost all the pliers now covered up. Fantastic. Okay, let's flip it over once again. And we can actually just put this strut in its rightful place. I'm going to add the glue. I'm going to try and avoid, you'll have to trust me here because you can't see it, avoid gluing the rigging itself, the rigging wires, but just add some glue to the top of the strut. And then pop it into its slot. There we go. So now we really need to gently hold those wings together to make sure that the strut takes and the glue sets. I'm going to hold it in place while the glue sets, and I'll get back to you once that has finished. That's been about 5 minutes, and the strut seems to be nice and secure now. The next step, I think, is going to be I know, of course I know, is to actually just finish off the rigging. So if I quickly show you, we've got our little rigging point here on the top wing that we installed during the build, and we have 2 loose wires here that need threading through. Obviously, there's one that's specifically for the hole that's facing us at the moment, and one for the rear one, and that is obviously dependent on how it's been threaded. So I can put that to the back there. That one's going to go through the front. I'm literally just going to use my rigging tool, pop it through the hole there. so. Then I'm going to have to put the aircraft down because I don't have 3 hands, which would be very useful in this job, but there we go. And then, as we have done in previous parts of the build, just pull that thread through so you can see. So I've now pulled that thread through there, and I shall continue to do that with the rear hole as well. Thread gone, there it is. So unfortunately, once again, the camera angle is not brilliant for demonstrating this to you, but I think if you're building the aircraft, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here. There we go, and the next one through as well. So all this rigging's fairly loose at the moment. What we can actually do a little later on is tighten all that up, but now we've got that threaded through, we can move on to creating the strut that sits, the outer interplane strut, which sits between the 2 wings. So I'm going to pop the aircraft to one side and go and get the bits that are required for the strut. So in your kit you have a clear tube like so, which is 140, 150 millimeters long, I believe, and you're going to need the sticker sheet. So on the sticker sheet you need to use S12, they're both the same, and S12, the length of the sticker will determine how much of the straw you cut off. Now before we apply the sticker, you need to compress the tube so that you're essentially folding it. You still want a gap running through it, but you need it to be quite ovalized. So there we go. Excuse the scratches on my hand. I haven't got a weird disease. I had a fight with a blackberry bush just yesterday while mowing the lawn. So yes, a gardener's injury. So okay, now let's peel off an S12. Very simple. Now you don't you've got plenty of tube to work with. You've certainly got a little bit extra, so you don't need to actually get it accurately at the top of the part. And what I actually suggest you try and do is actually pop the sticker on so that it sits on one of the ridges created, or one of the edges that you created by folding, compressing the tube, and then just gently folding the sticker onto the tube. If you do one end first, one side first, and it probably will just about wrap around the edge on the other side, like so, and then complete it the other side. Just popping that down, sticking it. There we go. Fantastic. So we haven't got any creases or wrinkles, and then you'll notice that the sticker is at an angle on the tube itself, and we want to cut the tube at that angle right on the edge of that sticker, like so. And the same we can trim at the top. And there we go. So we now have our strut to go between the two wings on the aircraft. So let's bring this back. So this actually, the tube itself slots into the little wraparound shrouds that we've created that sitting on the both the wings. So it's literally just a matter of popping it in place. We won't glue it straight away. We might need to push the wings apart a little more than they will naturally sit at once they've settled. So, having a problem getting it in the bottom bit there. Went in the top one fine. So maybe I've just glued it a little bit too much at the back there. So I'm just going to open it up a little more. Just carefully pushing it out. I'm using the back of my knife here just to open everything up a little bit. And then we'll pop. We'll go for the bottom first, just to make it easier for ourselves. Maybe if I go in. Right, well, there we go. That's better. And then into the top. Fantastic. So now we have our strut in place. You can see all looks really good, and the wings are running nice and parallel with each other. So, and you'll notice if you look into the holes there that the tube that we just put in shouldn't be poking up and through. It should remain sitting on the lower surface of the top wing and the top surface of the lower wing, like so. Okay, so we actually have our starboard top wing on now, and what we can do is secure this strut in place now. We're going to actually glue it to our little boots here, just to hold it in place. Now I'm actually going to use a CA glue for that, just to make things easier. Now I did have a little special nozzle for it. There it is. So that's a finer tip nozzle I'm using there, just to make sure I get a nice small flow of CA, so I don't splurge all over the place. I can actually watch it go through to the tip of the tube, and then hold it there, then apply as required. And because it's nice and thin, it wicks around the join, which will then hold everything in place. There we go. And then just quickly wipe off any excess. Try not to glue my fingers together. We need to make a little connection between the top and bottom ailerons so that they actually move in unison. The control is obviously, as we know, on the underside of the lower wing, we've got a little servo there. And we will be attaching that servo to the aileron control horn that's already down there with one of these wires that's supplied, these control wires that's supplied in the pack with the little U bend and the little Z bend at the end of it. So we're actually, to connect the aileron with the servo is only going to take a very small amount of that whole stretch of wire. So I'm going to turn my attentions to the other end of the wire just there, and I'm going to start making a little loop with that. Now you're going to need some fairly small nosed pliers, because we're trying to make a very small loop that will eventually attach itself to the little hole that is in the control horn of the aileron, both top and bottom. So we're actually going to make in total 4 of these, but for this one set of wings and these 2 ailerons, we're just going to need 2. So let's continue. I'll just pop this over a little further to one side. There we go. We can remove that for now. The other part of this is you will have a piece of carbon fibre like so. This is actually a tube. You will, if you look at the ends of that tube, there is a hole in there, which is about 0.5 millimeters in diameter, and the piano wire, control wire that you have in the kit, that's actually 0.51 millimeters. So the idea is that once we've got that little loop created, that will then install itself into the carbon fibre, which we will cut to length, and we'll have a little loop either end of the length of carbon fibre. So anyway, let's get to making this little loop. Now, as I said, you've got plenty of wire, so it may need a few attempts, but I'm literally just going to start bending the wire around. Mine usually end up in a sort of a D shape. Just got to keep it as tight as possible. So as you can see here, let's just give you an idea of where we're at the moment. So I've bent it round so it's sort of looped over on itself. And what I'm going to try and do is bring the tip as close to the rest of the wire as possible. In fact, probably going to be better off using, because that's they've got a smooth surface to them. So what I need is a ridged surface like on these ones, just a bit of brute force just to push that together. You can see where we're at now. So, and then what I want to do is try and angle this loop so it's sitting atop the wire itself in an even way. So let's need to so hopefully now I'll show you that. See now that it's sort of central on the direction of the wire itself. So that's what we're sort of after. there should be enough room there to slot that into the little servo, or the little arm that we have on the on each of the ailerons. So we then need to create a little tail, probably around about well, 10 mil should do it. It may even be overkill. So most of this is obviously going to be inserted into the carbon fibre. And the other thing that I want to do is just sand off any burr that we might have got from cutting that with the pliers. Cool. Right. Also need to make sure that it's in line. So I'm going to carry on and create another one of those. And then we will cut the carbon fibre to length and install these. And then we will continue with tensioning our rigging. Then we will install the little connectors that we've created. So let me crack on with that, and I'll come back to you once the other one's done. So let's just unclasp our rigging, and then we're just going to tie this off to make sure that it is properly secured. Use my tweezers. Just to help with manipulating the rigging wire. Okay. And we'll just leave the tail on there while everything settles down. Let's just turn this over. So with tensioning these two wires here, obviously I need 2 bulldog clips, and then we'll pop on. So let's just pop one on there to create the pressure. And I'll go and grab another one, and it's probably best if I put everything on top of the coffee cup, like so. So I'm just going to go and get another clip, pop it on there. There we go. I did have some really small ones, but I don't know where they've gone. So that's tension now. Pop a little more glue. There and there. Just to secure everything. Keep everything nice and tight. Okay. Now I have created another of my little loops. So we'll just cut that off as well, leaving a bit of a tail. Just sand the cut area there. It also helps taking the burr off. Well, the reason for taking the burr off is so that it goes into the carbon fibre tube and doesn't actually split the tube itself. So the more of a sort of a point that you can produce, the better. So there we go. So the length of carbon fibre that we need for this little control connection is 55 millimeters. So let's just safe place. Let's just measure off our 55 millimeters, and then to cut the carbon fibre, there is a definite technique to it. Just trying to scrunch through it will generally sort of crush the fibres. So we want a sort of a sawing action with our scalpel. So it needs to be about there, and then I'm just sort of rolling it around. Slowly going through it. There we go. I don't really want to sort of crush the integrity of the tube, as it were. So you should now be able to pop your little loops into the end, and it is fairly tight fit. We're not going to glue them for now, and in fact they're such a tight fit that I actually haven't had the need to try and glue them so far. Let's just see what we've got between loops. Now there are slight variations depending on your build. So I've got that at well, it's between top and bottom. It's about, well, I'm aim for 65. So at the moment it's about 67. So I'm just going to move that in slightly. Just a little bit more. Okay, that's 65. So there we go. You can see what I've done there. We've got the carbon fibre tube in the middle and the little loops that we've created at the ends there. Now the edges of these loops have got to be fairly smooth because they will come into contact with the sides of the material of the wings, and it's best if obviously they don't catch. So having them nice and smooth means that they just sort of slide through, and we rely on the power of the servo to overcome any small amounts of friction there may be while they're tying the ailerons together. Basically, we're not going to tension the rigging completely until we have actually connected the ailerons together. So let's do that now. So we've created our little aileron connecting system, and we just need to install this now. There are, as you'll see on the ailerons, we've installed these arms, and at the end of the arms you've got you've got a hole, I should say, and that hole has got a sort of a lead into it. You can see there, that you can pop a cable into if you push hard enough. So I'll just demonstrate this. So there. So that's now in the hole itself. So you can see just by pushing the this particular wire in from the front. So that's how we basically want to install those little loops. We want to push them in from the front, and what I suggest is probably just push a spare bit of wire through just to make sure that that it all works according to the plan, just to make sure that you've got the ability to do that. Do it several times. You might have a little bit of glue in there that needs removing, and also to do that on the top one as well. So just to make sure it's all probably a good idea, just pushes the plastic out of the way a little bit to ensure that when we install our little control rod, they'll pop in easy enough. So I'm going to go from the top down. Let's just move this into a position where we can all see it. So literally we'll pop this rod down through the strut, and then I'm going to get my tweezers just to hold it while I push the two together. It's preventing that. So oh, it's gone through. Let's try again. It's a little difficult doing this angle without sort of crouching over it and obliterating your view. At that point, I realised that it was going to be near impossible to actually demonstrate properly how to install the little control rod that connects the two control arms on the ailerons. Just basically because of the fairly fiddly nature of it. I'll just get my head in the way and all sorts of other limbs, I would imagine. So what I thought I'd do is I'd show you how it slots together off the aircraft. And what I've done, I've recreated the little arms, the control arms that you've got already installed on the upper and lower wing. And I just need to show you how the little control rod that we've created with the loops at the end actually installs into these little arms. So you've got your hole there that hopefully you've cleared of any glue. I did suggest, I think, that we push this through. Oh, by the way, yeah, change of scenery. We've got a new cutting board, also in a new studio as well. So hopefully lighting and sound will be a little bit better too. So we're just going to make sure that this is clear with glue. I've got a rod here. I think I did this earlier in the video. Just making sure that it's clear and you can insert through that little slot at the side there. So essentially what we'd be doing is this part is sitting on the top wing. The best thing to do obviously is to it's attached to the aileron, is to hold it as close to the hole as possible with something like pliers, such as that, or maybe even tweezers like such. And then we want to push one of the loops through into that little hole there. But obviously this has to thread down the tube first, and then we need to pop it on. So when you are popping it on, let's just I'm going to use the tweezers. You need to hold it as close to the top there as possible, only because, and I've done this several times, if you try and push from a little bit further down the carbon fiber tube, you tend to find that this will the wire form that we've created will actually try to split the carbon fiber, and because the carbon fibre is made the way it is by extrusion. All of the carbon fibre fibres actually line up along the tube itself, so it's quite weak if you put a side force from internally upon it. So right, let's give that another go. So that should pop through like so. I did that completely off camera, didn't I? So let's take that out again. Making sure we're holding it at the top. There we go. So pretend that's on the top wing. That's slotted into the tube. Now it'll probably stay in the tube because there's plenty of places for it to rest against, giving you the opportunity to, if you can, grab it via the top of the carbon fibre tube with a pair of tweezers, and then that should just slot in like so. The more you clear it and the more times you insert stuff in there, then the easier it becomes. So we repeat the process, turn the model over, and then on the underside you do exactly the same thing using your pliers or tweezers, etc., and then just pop that into place. Hopefully you heard the click there as it slotted in. So then they're connected. Now you may need to do a little bit of fiddling around with the holes. Got these around the wrong way. You won't do that on the installation. Let's just pop that out. So that goes around that way. So you can see now the method in the madness. So as this is on the bottom wing here, which has got the servo in as well. As that moves, the aileron down, the arm moves as well, and it pulls the excuse me, the other aileron like so as well. So that would actually be, if that's the bottom wing, that's going to be an up aileron. So it moves like so, and that's obviously shrouded in the tube, or the outer strut as it actually is. So that's how it goes. So that's my little demonstration over with, and in fact I have, in the meantime, setting up the studio, I have actually just move that up there. I have actually got it connected, and I've also installed my little servo connector rod there as well, just so that it all lines up. As you can see, the two ailerons are sitting in the neutral position there, which is great. A little bit of work needed there. This looks like the foam didn't get enough glue or something, so we can always slot a little more glue in there using a piece of paper or something like that. So that's all done. I've also tensioned the rigging. So I did that after I'd done the actuator on, because there are a number of forces going on around here as it's being installed. If the rigging has been tightened before that point, then it's likely that it'll probably slacken off, or the geometry won't be quite the same once you've finished putting your controls for the ailerons through the tube, etc. So I've yet to put on the other wing, so I'm going to crack on with that. I'm not going to fully video it because we've obviously been through that process on the starboard wing here, but I'll when it comes to tensioning the rigging, then I'll come back and we'll go through that process together. I just wanted to reiterate the port wing that's going on now uses the extension cable rather than the Y cable because of our little idiosyncratic LED system, and so we literally just plug this into the wire that's coming out of our wing, and then that threads through. What I am going to do is I'm going to tidy this up. Once this is through there, I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to probably use a little elastic band or a little bit of tape just to sort of roll this all up, because we don't actually need that much. If you're a dab hand at soldering, etc., then it might be a good idea to shorten it if you so wish. But obviously it doesn't weigh that much. But obviously every gram counts in micros, so it might be something that you'd think of doing should you wish. So just to come back to this, I've just tidied up the excuse me, tidied up the wire so that I can pop that back in there and we can connect it up when required. Right, as you can see, the wing is on. I've just got to do the bits with regards to connecting that up, and then we'll go and we'll tighten up the rigging. I've got the top wing on. Oh look, I need to show you this. I've got a nice little it's a little leather bag which I had made for me for something completely different. It's a bit like what we used to call a hacky sack, but slightly bigger, filled with sand. But we're going to be using that at a later date for something else. But it acts as a really good way of, certainly if you've got an aircraft with dihedral and you're fiddling around with it, it's quite good for resting on. So that's what I'm using. So I've got the top wing on. I've threaded through my little aileron control thing, so that's all in. It wasn't too fiddly this time, which is great. And so what I haven't done yet is obviously tighten up this rigging, and the other thing I also haven't done is glued the struts in place. So these are this strut here is still mobile. The wing can be pushed together or pulled away slightly, so that obviously affects the rigging as well. So we've got to keep a note of that, keep that in mind when we are tightening the rigging, that we don't pull it down so much that the ailerons come out of there at the moment, and then sort of nicely aligned. So they're both sitting at around about neutral. If I put it apart slightly, the top wing goes in and out of that neutral position. So that's where we want it. So I think that's what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to actually glue that in place, and that involves me using a little bit of the CA Rocket Odorless foam safe glue, although we're not actually putting it on foam, but and wicking that into between the strut itself and the little boot that surrounds it on the wing. It's difficult to get this into shot and into focus. There we go. So yes, let's get the knife. So I'm going to wick some glue into this area here and on the reverse, and also up there as well. So there and there. And it's gone out of focus again. I'll get on with that because it's not something I can show you easily while doing it, but you get the gist. Let's install the control rod for the aileron servo on our port side, whilst we're waiting for the the glue on the rigging to completely dry off. Now you should have a number of these in your pack, the little control wires, control rods, push rods, whatever you want to call them, and it should have a little loop at the end there and a Z bend off at a 90-degree angle to the loop, and essentially that little loop and the Z bend can go through the control horn that we've rigged up on our aileron, our lower aileron. So there we go, like so. And as you can see, the tail on this control rod, because it was originally designed for our 1/24th scale World War I aircraft, is very long, and we don't need it as long as that because it's not going down a fuselage, it's just going to a little servo here. So all we need to do, I tend to use a little Sharpie marker, obviously being very careful not to drop it or get it onto any of the material on the aircraft, because obviously it would mark it and that would be a bit of a disaster. So what I want to do is really put a dot where the wire passes the hole in the servo arm. There we go. Get that lid on as quickly as possible. Now I'm just going to take that arm out like so, and then using my pliers just bend that in at 90 degrees where the black mark is, and I noted that it was towards the beginning of the black mark that that was sort of closest to where the hole was. So I'm going to bend that 90 degrees there, and then I'm going to put a smaller Z bend as I can in to go through the servo arm. There we go. Overbaked it slightly. Just pull that back, and then these pliers are pathetic for cutting, so I'm just going to change to something a little more substantial, and then just cut that Z bend off with a couple of mil on the tail. There we go. Fantastic. So we've got a spare bit of wire there we can use at a later date, no doubt, on something. So now to install this, we go into the servo first, so, then onto our, I'm just going to move into position here, into our arm here, like so. Because that's nice and flexible, well, the control horn is nice and flexible, that allows us to actually, that seems a little bit too long. It's pushing the aileron down a bit too much. So I might make an adjustment to that, and I can do that by just taking this off. I'm just going to squeeze the U there together slightly, just to shorten it somewhat. That obviously changes the angles there, so I'm going to then switch to my smaller pliers. Should have used those in the first place. Just going to bend that down slightly so that it's still nice and straight. I just should have straightened that out as well, so the Z bend is following along the same lines. So that back in. There we go. There, that's a lot better. So that aileron now sits at the same position as that one. Fantastic. In this section, I'm going to paint the spinners and prepare the propellers for installing onto our aircraft. So we're going to put the stickers on the props. We need to paint up these spinners. Now, silver is the. I've actually got some acrylic metal colour here. This is aluminium, I believe, and there we go. Stuff there, but any aluminium. This is obviously this is hips or something like that, so it's a plastic, so you can put enamel or acrylic on. I'm actually going to put some as I said, some aluminium, some silver acrylic, and then I am going to add, I've got a gloss varnish and a matte varnish here. I'm going to do my favorite, mix a couple of drops of each together, and then going to give it a varnish as well, just as a bit of added protection. Then we can cut them out and put them together and mount them on the props that'll hopefully have the prop stickers on. So I'll just give this a quick shake. I've got there's a little ball in there, which is useful. But, so I won't make you suffer by looking at me shaking my hand. It looks a bit weird. Right, that'll probably be enough. Let's just put a little blob on my makeshift palette. You can see I've got some on there from previous. Now, I think this is usually a 1 or 2 coat. We'll see. It goes on quite thick for an acrylic. So the great thing with acrylics as well is that they do tend to dry quite quickly. So I'm just putting it on the outer parts of the spinner. The inners can stay unpainted. Okay. Good. Right. Just wash the brush. A bit of water there. That's the other great thing about acrylic paints. You don't need a solvent. Well, the solvent is water, so it makes it nice and easy. There we go. So I'll just pop that to one side for now. Over there, that'll do. Get rid of that. I'll leave that out just in case it dries before, or the paint on the spinners dry before the paint in the palette. Okay, so let's just, these have got their prop adapter on, so I'll just remove that. Of course, you could, if you wanted to, you could paint these rather than put the prop stickers on, but I think the prop stickers are quite fetching. So they're labelled, so you've got ones for the counter-rotating and ones for the standard clockwise rotating props. So GWS 4530 is the standard rotation, and GWS 4530R is the reverse rotation. So, and the reverse rotation prop is the glossy one, and the standard rotation prop is the matte one. So that's how we distinguish them. So there's a little bit of preparation that you can do if you want. You don't have to, but it just makes things smoother. There's a slightly raised characters identifying the prop. You can probably see them. It says EP 4530 and GWS on that side, and there is also a little number 2 there as well. So what you can do with a sharpish blade is just scrape that off. Well, the other thing you can do, if that's not doing, is using the softer side of your sanding stick. Just give it a quick off as well. Of course, we're going to cover this, so that's all smoothed off. Get rid of the GWS. Obviously, with the sticker covering it, these tend to form a bit of a lump underneath. I mean, you can only see it if you look very closely, but obviously you don't want a lumpy prop. So there we go, and let's just prep the other one too. Seems to be slightly more raised on the glossy counter-rotating prop. And the number seems to be closer in towards the central boss, but that certainly ruins the glossiness of the prop by sanding it. But as I said, it's all going to be covered, so there we go. Right, so let's put our prop stickers on. So we'll go with the glossy one first. The GWS 4530R, that's these two here. So let's just peel this off. I'll get my start by just popping the knife underneath and lifting it. There we go, that should start me off, and then carefully, and obviously the places that you've got to really look out for are those sort of sharp contours, the cut-ins, where there's a potential for the sticker to rip. And the one thing I always do to get these stickers on, because if you try and stick straight to it, the likelihood is you won't get it in the right position, and you won't get them off once they're stuck on. So we're going for the mouth water. So quickly coat the sticker with a bit of spit, essentially, and also coat the back of the stick. Coat the prop with a little bit of the old tongue water, and do the same with the sticker itself as well. That really is tongue water. Yeah. What we want is for this to be able to slide around a bit while we position it. There we go. And then obviously it's not going to stick particularly well at this stage, because obviously there is some moisture underneath the sticker, but that will soon dry off, and we can then bring everything together. But the purpose of this now is just to make sure everything's lined up. Check the leading edge there. You might find there's a little tiny black line left at the back there. Well, that's all right. Yeah, just check that leading edge on the sticker, and once you're happy with it, just leave it be, and we'll come back to that later once this is all dried off, and we can put those edges back down so they all stick together. Okay, on to our next one. So I'll carry on doing this. I'll do the other prop as well. But the key, as I said, is firstly, when you peel these stickers off, very careful not to cause any ripping or splitting, and that just requires a little bit of care and attention when you take it off the backing paper. And then a little bit of tongue water. And slip slide it into place. So I'll crack on, as I said, and we'll come back when we start cutting out our spinners. I've already given them a second coat of the silver, so I think that's probably going to be enough. We'll add some varnish to these guys now, and I'll just shake these and pause the video. So in my palette, I'm going to put a few drops of the gloss varnish. Add a few drops of the matte varnish, usually equal amounts. So this doesn't seem to be coming out. Where's my... I usually use this for the glue. I made this earlier. Something blocking. There we go. That's better. Might be a little more matte than it is gloss, but that'll do. Give it a quick mix. And then let's just apply it to protect our lovely silver spinners. There's like a pop group from the 60s, doesn't it? The silver spinners. There we go. Obviously not here for the comedy. Before we cut out and attach all of the prop paraphernalia, the other thing we can do, a little bit more decoration, is on the nacelles. There is, on this particular model, a little flash that sits at the side of the nacelle, just around about there, right sort of in the center of the prop line. So I'm just going to attach that. There are 4 of them, so there's 1 each side of the nacelle. As you can see there, there's sort of little highfalutin triangular sticker here. All 4 of them are S2. Just tease that off. And then carefully take that off the backing paper. And then I'm just going to stick it to the tip of my scalpel and then just bring it to bear. If I can show you this. In fact, actually, before we do that, let's just take the hatch off. Said. Easier said than done. This tie back so slippy. There we go. Nearly. Those magnets are so magnety. It's been a while since I've taken these off. There we go. So basically sits just there. But it's sitting there, we'll just maneuver it into place. Sort of sits on the front as well, the front of the nacelle, like so, and then folds round so that the tip sits just at the point where the seam is, just there. Oh, let's see if my little ball tool is any good at. Yes, I think that's doing a pretty good job. Because of the complex curves, you tend to get a little bit of wrinkling in the sticker, but that ball tool is helping to get those out. Right, I'm going to do the rest of those on the 3 other sides of the nacelles, and then hopefully our spinners will be dry enough to start cutting out. Well, I've reverted back to the old cutting mat, and hopefully that's going to resolve the issues with the camera problems, but we shall see. Anyway, where were we? We were going to be doing the spinners and the props. Well, I've actually gone ahead and done one. Oh, now you can see how this is put together. I haven't glued it together, and in fact I won't until it's actually on the aircraft. But as you can see, it differs slightly from how we've done the spinners in the past. You've actually got your 2 parts, as we know from our painting. You can see I've been cutting this one out as well. Yeah, they come in the 2 vac form parts. The inner part, which I haven't painted, I've got a little splash of paint on. There's a little hole through that we actually put our prop adapter through there, and that gets sandwiched between the prop and the prop adapter, like so. So that's held on nicely, and that, in fact, that is how we will attach the prop. We won't bother putting the spinner on until this whole assembly is actually on the aircraft itself. We can actually use maybe a little bit of glue on there too, just to hold it nice and firm. But that sandwiches on, and then obviously eventually that pops on there. We can use a little bit of the foam to foam just to tack it on, and it should center quite nicely if we've done our cutting correctly. So let's just put that one aside for now. As you can see on this one, I've started cutting out, but I've left this tab here. There we go. I've left that tab there. It just makes it easier to handle the whole thing, because obviously what we're going to do is, once we've made our cuts, they're usually fairly rough. We are just going to use our sanding stick and actually use the the less aggressive side, just to sand things down, just to make sure everything's smooth and seated. You'll notice as well that each one of these, because you've got a clockwise and anti-clockwise rotating props, that these differ in the way they're oriented, so they'll only fit onto one prop. This one I've already cut out, that's going on that's the clockwise rotating prop, like so. And obviously the spinner itself, that also is handed too, so it'll only go onto one of the props. Okay, so I've almost finished cutting this out. What I tend to do is I use a combination of blade and also scissors. I've got a small pair of scissors here, and I can actually use that. What you need for this is good light, that's for sure. So just trim that, and then just use the sanding stick to make sure that that protruding part is all sanded back. And then obviously I want to make this as flat and even as possible, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the sanding stick, I'm just letting the grip do the work. There we go. And the other thing we need to do is create that hole, and you can see there's a little nubbin on top there, and all we have to do there is just, I should have left that tab on, shouldn't I, before doing this, is just, as you can see, I am cutting towards my fingers, so I'm being very careful. I'll just keep rotating. So once you start cutting through this, it tends to go. So once again, as you can see there, be careful of your fingers when you're doing this. And if I'd had that tab on, I could have held the tab and cut away from my fingers, which would have been the more sensible thing to do. It up so I've got a little more control. There we go, that makes more sense. So there we go, we have a hole there now, and what I'm going to do, I'm not going to trim it off inside. What I want is for it to grip the rubber as much as possible, so I want that to be quite a nice tight fit, but I am going to sand it down so that any excess stuff protruding up and stopping the prop adapter from sitting flat on the face of that, I'm going to get rid of. So just sand that down. Oh, did I just see the camera go funny again? Well, so much for my theory that it was the cutting mat. Hey how. Anyway. So there we go. So that's ready for our other prop. We'll just pop that over there, get rid of the swarf, and onto our spinner. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually just going to cut into 4 points of the where the prop comes in and meets the spinner, and that's represented on the vac form by these 4 points here. So there's 1, just there. There's one there, one there, and the one I've just cut in just there. So it'll be pretty obvious to you when you get these parts in your hands. So there we go. See that now, hopefully. So what I'm now going to do is swap to using the knife and just gently, I'm going to get this as close to me as possible without getting my head in the way, so I can see what's going on, and then just gently cut round the base curve of the spinner. So I haven't gone all the way through, so I'm going to do a couple of cuts. There we go. So that should now fall away. Probably the most difficult parts to do are where the prop actually enters the spinner. But once again, I'm just going to get it in a good light and then just gently run and put almost a score into the plastic, like so. Just turn it round and go down the other side. Go. And the second cut, I should be able to get that. If I've got a nice sharp blade, which this one is, it should complete the cut. There we go. So do the same on the other side. And then once we've got this free, as again, I'm leaving that tab there just for the purposes of being able to hold on to this while we finish our cuts. Now you'll see that there's now a white line that runs all the way around there, because obviously we've gone down through the plastic, and now we're just seeing the edge of that. So what we're actually going to do is trim away that white edge there by running the blade down through the plastic. Now this is, I'm using sort of, as you can see, I'm using the main meat of the blade itself just to trim a slither. That's what snakes do. A sliver. Like so. And then I'm going to go down the shorter edge, take some of the plastic off from there as well. So you can see I've come to more of a point there now, which is fine. Just going to keep trimming until I've got no more of that white edge showing. And then I'm going to just quickly give it a bit of sanding. Still a little bit sticking out there, so let's just take that off. That will show my white edge again, but with the sanding stick and a knife I can manage that. paint on there as well. So anyway, there we go. So I'm going to do that to this side too. Oop. So once again, that's running the knife blade along the plane of what the prop will be taking. Let's run that down gently through there, down the other side. Go, and a bit of a tidy up with the sanding stick. And these are tiny spinners when you compare them to something like a Spitfire spinner or a P51 spinner or something like that. Diddy. Right, and then we'll just take our little holding tab off. Go. Once again, we can gently sand the base of that flat. So that should now sit nicely. There we go. That's actually works out very nicely onto the base plate, like so, and that should fit over. Let's just pop our. See, that's a nice tight fit with the rubber prop adapter, and then that pops into the hub of the prop, like so, and then obviously that will eventually find its way on like that. There we go. The only other thing we need to do now is obviously the stickers are now free from the tongue water, so we can now just press those down and make sure they're well and truly stuck. Obviously there's some aerodynamics that goes on with these props, so it's important certainly to have the leading edge as well as thin and together as possible. We don't want anything interfering with the power that these will generate. So there we go. So we have now our two props with our spinners that we will pop onto the aircraft once it's once it's got all the electronics in, etc. I won't pop the props on just yet because obviously we need to test the electronics, and if I have the props on there, then they may spin inadvertently if we've got the throttle reversed or something like that, and obviously power up and cause all sorts of mayhem. So we'll leave them off for now, but we can put them to one side as a completed task and pop them on proudly once the electronics are installed.